At Bethel, we believe God has big plans for your student. We're about bringing transparency and clarity to the college search and enrollment process so you can focus on what really matters, your student's education and their future. We've simplified our tuition and created the Bethel Promise Grant to make college more straightforward and affordable for families. This series of short videos brings together some of our best campus experts to address your top questions. This is Bethel Basics.
Well, my name is Mitch Fisk. I'm the Director of Admissions here at Bethel University, and I have an expert with us today, Stan Thompson. Welcome, Stan.
Thanks for having me, Mitch.
So, Stan, you have decades of leadership and people development experience across multiple sectors. Can you talk a little bit more about how that experience has prepared you to come alongside our current students as they're starting this journey into their career?
Sure. Well, I've worked in fields ranging from banking to churches to a private school to a nonprofit with a disability services focus. So I have a lot of understanding of different industries and what employers are really looking for, and that's really helpful in my role. My role as the Director of Career Development and Studio Operations. This is the Studio for Vocation and Calling.
It's a beautiful space.
It is a beautiful space.
Brand new.
It is. It's great. And in that role, my team really helps students take their next best step toward launching well when they graduate. Right. And so our team really uses our collective experience to help students do that.
Well, Stan, that real world perspective that you bring is really invaluable. Let's talk a little bit about a major development here at Bethel. We're doubling down on helping graduates succeed with two huge initiatives. Can you start by talking about the Studio for Vocation and Calling? What is it, and how is it really helping students with what's next?
The job market for new grads is challenging right now. Fewer people are changing jobs, and a lot of companies are starting to explore using generative AI to automate some of those entry-level tasks. And so it's a tough time for our new graduates to find jobs right now. But the Studio for Vocation and Calling really helps prepare students to address those challenges. The studio itself is both a physical space and a conceptual framework. The space is located right in a main drag right on campus, just down from Royal Grounds Coffee Shop. And it's really intended to be a central hub where students can come together with faculty, with employers, with alumni to really get the preparation that they need to launch well when they graduate. And so the studio itself is used for classes, workshops, networking events. We do hiring events here. Employers will interview students right on site here for internships and jobs. And so that's really what the space is intended to be. As a conceptual framework, we've been working with faculty to embed career prep into classrooms so that students are getting it where they are rather than having to opt into the services. So we're really working to build that in, building in experiences like vocational exploration and reflection, building in resume development and practice interview skills. And so that is really what the studio is intended to be, a holistic campus-wide effort to embed career development so that students have access to it.
Well, Stan, it sounds like it's really a central hub for student success. How will the studio be used to strengthen what we call the Royal Network?
The studio is crucial for expanding the Royal Network, which is our term for the powerful connection between students and alumni and employers and faculty. We're actively inviting alumni and employers onto campus for hiring events, for networking events, for panel interviews, and this really gives students an opportunity to see that real relationships can develop into real opportunities. And so when you're graduating from Bethel, you're not just getting a degree, you're graduating into a network where Royals help Royals and Royals hire Royals.
Sure, and even as you talk about they see it, like the location you have with the windows, students walk by, see these conversations taking place, which makes it more real. And you mentioned it, but the network really is important. So let's talk about the specific steps a student will take. So you mentioned a shift sort of from optional service to really a built-in model, and that's really formalized in the Bethel Career Commitment. Can you explain what this commitment is and how it replaces really the old roadmap?
Sure. So the Bethel Career Commitment is a series of intentional phased steps to help students along their pathway to launching well when they graduate. And so students work through 4 phases before they graduate: explore, clarify, engage, and then launch. And for example, by the time they hit 30 credits, students need to activate their Handshake account, create a LinkedIn profile, and build their first resume.
Sure.
Later phases include meeting with a career coach, doing some practice interviews, doing informational interviews with people out in the industry so that students have a good understanding of the type of work that they would be doing if they go along their path. And the goal is that by graduation, students will have applied for 20 jobs or up to 4 graduate programs if grad school is their path forward. And after graduation, they can continue to receive our coaching services. And if a student follows all of these steps and is prepared really well, but then doesn't have a job offer or grad school acceptance within 6 months of graduation, then we'll provide additional support to them through continued coaching, but also they'll be eligible for up to 8 free credits in one of our graduate programs, or a temporary full-time role at Bethel to help bridge them into full-time employment.
Sure. Well, and that's really an incredible commitment. And when you think about sometimes the stress and the weight that students put on themselves of figuring out this word calling, to be able to come alongside and give them sort of an opportunity post-school to continue to step into that. Why do you think that this career prep with calling, with that focus on calling, helps reduce the stress?
The weight of the word calling really comes from students thinking that there's one job out there that God has intended for me to find, and that if the perfect job, and that if I don't find that job, then I've somehow messed up God's plan. And that is just not true. So our approach to calling is helping students understand that a calling is really looking into your vocation, figuring out how God has uniquely wired you, and then how that applies to what God is asking you to step into. And students will have probably many callings throughout their lives, and that's not necessarily tied to a career or a job. It can be, but not necessarily. And so we integrate vocational prep into the classroom so that students really get a good understanding of who they are, how God's designed them to be, and because it's really about living your life with purpose, developing a relationship with Jesus, and being available and open to the promptings that God calls you to throughout your life.
Well, and a lot of it's about service too. You hear service just in those themes of calling as well. So we've talked a lot about current students. How do you come alongside and help students once they graduate and they've moved out of this academic setting? We consider them alumni. How do you help them?
Absolutely. The Royal Network is for life. We help alumni with a lot of the same services that we provide to our students. We'll help them update their resumes, brush up on their interview skills. We help mid-career professionals pivot into other careers and industries. We help them make those crucial connections to alumni in the fields that they're pivoting into.
Well, and it's really exciting that the concept of helping current students is ultimately as important as helping our alums as well.
Absolutely.
Well, Stan, thanks so much for sharing both about the studio and the career commitment. I know parents are watching. How can they reach out to your team for those questions that have bubbled up in this conversation?
They can reach out via email or calling us at the number listed on the screen.
Well, thanks again for talking about this incredible commitment that Bethel is making to ensure that our students and our alums are prepared to lead lives of purpose and impact.
Thanks so much for having me.